And I now give the floor to the representative of Lebanon.
Mr. President, at the outset, I would like to express my delegation's appreciation to Ambassador Shafiq, permanent representative of Turkey, and his team for their tireless efforts and constructive work in conducting the review process. My delegation also associates itself with the statement delivered by Egypt on behalf of OIC. Mr. President, terrorism is blind and strikes indiscriminately in any part of the world, from Iraq to Colombia, from Belgium to Pakistan, and from Nigeria to Norway. My delegation would like to reiterate its firm condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, and would further like to express its deepest sympathy to the families affected by these heinous acts. In this context, Lebanon considers that this fourth review is timely indeed. It highlights the necessity to address the conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism, the lessons learned, the emerging challenges and threats, and the importance to support more effectively the victims of terrorism. We therefore strongly commend the launch of the web portal for the victims of terrorism. The strategy reaffirmed the central role of the General Assembly in combating terrorism and stresses once again the importance to promote an integrated, comprehensive, and balanced approach of its four complementary pillars. Prevention remains an efficient policy to combat terrorism. It should lie upon the crucial role of education. Such education should promote dialogue and tolerance among religions and civilizations. We thus welcome the reference to the promotion of dialogue and tolerance among religions and civilizations in the draft resolution. While deploring the fact that reference to root causes was deleted from the final draft of the review, it remains important to address the root causes that may lead to extremism and radicalism, such as flashpoints of tension, social exclusion and marginalization, impunity, and double standards in the compliance with international law. We stress the inclusion in the review of the information and communication technology, which has been playing a growing role as it's reflected in the Secretary General report. One has to be aware that these instruments can assist us and be a driving force in tackling terrorism, but it shall not become a pretext to justify and violate fundamental rights contained in relevant international norms. In this regard, we commend the reference to the respect of the right to privacy in the context of counterterrorism and underscore the fact that combating terrorism while respecting human rights are not two conflicting principles, but rather convergent ones. Furthermore, we recall the utmost necessity to differentiate between terrorism and the legitimate right to resist foreign occupation, as it is solidly embedded in international law. However, some of these individuals who resist are the victims of terrorists who exploit their just cause and use it as a catalyst for committing condemnable acts. Would like to thank the Secretary General for his relevant report on the counterterrorism strategy implementation and welcome the observations and recommendations he set out. We also note the efforts and work of CTITF, UNCCT, UNODC, and CTED for their significant cooperation and expertise in assisting states to counter terrorism and support this strategy. In this respect, the three-pronged approach implemented by the task force is a positive step that will promote better cooperation and consistency. Mr. President, my country, which is party to 13 relevant UN international instruments against terrorism, has been suffering the devastating consequences of terrorism that has claimed numerous innocent lives, including civilians, political leaders, and journalists. The Lebanese armed forces have made tremendous progress to bring these attacks to an end. Indeed, the army has stressed the perpetrators of terrorist attacks that have taken place, has arrested, the perpetrators of terrorist attacks that have taken place in Lebanon since October 2013 and have resulted in more than 65 fatalities and over 400 casualties. Our army has also been able to prevent further attacks by defusing a significant number of car bombs across the country. In this context, the newly sworn-in government pledged in its policy statement to confront terrorism relentlessly. Mr. President, finally, let me draw your attention to the alarming acts of terrorism taking place in the occupied Palestinian territory. In fact, in addition to the well-known crimes against humanity and war crimes committed by the State of Israel, Israeli settlers continue to perpetrate acts of terrorism against the Palestinian civilian population and their property. Such acts should be condemned in the strongest terms and their authors prosecuted. Clearly, Israel's alleged commitment to democracy and the rule of law does not extend to certain categories of populations. Mr. President, this strategy should be now more than ever reflected in a comprehensive convention with a unified definition of terrorism. This will enable us to counter throughout the world the scourge of terrorism in accordance with international law. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Lebanon for his statement.